I'm Dr. Gwyn Erwin, and welcome back to my channel, Healing for Your Life. In the just previous video, I was discussing the pandemic crisis that we're all in worldwide, and the fundamental core response of fear, and all the defenses that we bring to bear to try to cope with that. In this video, I'm going to talk about new defenses that come out of new coping skills. Now, you may already have these coping skills, and you may be employing them, and they may be serving you very well. And if that's the case, I'm delighted. So, this is a video that focuses on acquiring and practicing and acquiring some new coping skills, which will then turn into new forms of defenses that are much more appropriate to your age and developmental phase, and that you can also teach your children and encourage in them and help them through this very challenging time. There are some fundamental, I would say, 5 areas of coping skills that I want to talk about. The first, has to do with acceptance. Acceptance is a tricky topic because most of the time people equate it with approval. And I'm not talking about approval. I'm talking about acceptance of difficult things, of difficult people, which does not mean you have to approve of any of it, but you do have to work with it. So in our circumstances of this crisis, our first responsibility and our first opportunity to develop a new coping skill is the acceptance of our circumstance. Now, that doesn't mean collapsing into them and not doing anything about them. And it certainly doesn't mean necessarily approving of them. But it means to have a strong reality base, to know what's going on, to be able to face it, to be able to share in its problem solving, and to accept its core reality in concert with others so that we really can find solutions, large and small, to what we are going through. The second area of acceptance is the acceptance of responsibility. What is our responsibility in these circumstances? What is this responsibility in terms of any circumstance that is positive or difficult? My responsibilities in my life include making my practice available for my patients or new patients, finding ways, creative ways, whether it's Zoom or FaceTime or phone sessions, to maintain our therapeutic process and make room for all the stressors or challenges that come up because of this crisis. That's my professional responsibility. I feel this video is part of my professional responsibility. I have a responsibility to my family for us to find creative ways to engage those family members I live with and those I live apart from, but we FaceTime, we text, we call, we share online different activities, we keep up with what's going on. And we find ways to make sure that they have the supplies that they need if they need help, or the groceries that they need, or the protections that they need, if at all possible. I have a responsibility to my friends to help them feel comfortable or met or comforted or reassured. And I have a responsibility to my fellow humans on this planet that the more I keep myself healthy and well and safe, the more I am contributing to their safety and well-being and their health. We have a responsibility to the animals in our world. My little dogs are very clingy right now because they sense something, just because those of us here at home are working from home and everything's different, and we're moving to different parts of the house and doing different things there, and they just want to be close by, both protectively for us and to protect themselves. We have a responsibility to our planet to not clutter, to not spoil, to appreciate it, and to use the resources of our planet for safekeeping and well-being. And we have a responsibility in our humans to those who are on the front lines as first responders and who provide essential services, to accept the respect and offer the respect that they deserve for the work that they're doing. Our next acceptance is very personal. First, it is to accept the ebb and flow of our feeling life. We are going to feel such a spectrum of emotions, sometimes moment to moment, sometimes hour to hour, sometimes day to day. From hope to discouragement, to fear, to pessimism, to anxiety, to panic, to terror, to horror, to moments of joy, to remembered happinesses, to surprise, shock, awe, to some levels of happiness where they're available. And the image that I want you to take away, or I'm going to offer, and if it doesn't work for you, find something similar, is that it's like riding the waves of the ocean. Those feelings are going to ebb and flow. Grief is one of them. There are people losing people who can't even be with their loved ones as they're dying. That makes grief even more excruciating. There are people who can't even bury their loved ones. And that is so painful. But grief, while it is intense and lasting, it is not forever. And even in grieving moments, there are ebbs and flows. There is comfort available, hopefully. There is hope available, hopefully. There is companionship available, hopefully. When my husband died after a very long and very trying illness for him and subsequently for us, my active grief lasted at least a year and somewhat into the second year. I felt such fatigue as I'd never felt in my life. We'd been together for 45 years and loved one another. And the exhaustion that I felt was not just from the caregiving, but from the tumult of losing him day by day. And of course, I felt incredibly sad. I still miss him terribly. but there are other feelings there now too, and that active grief didn't stay active, and it began to ebb and flow. And I worked very consciously and deliberately to stay present. And if I had a moment of just overwhelming grief, I let myself experience it, knowing that it would pass and something else would be there in its place. And so just as the waves come in and out from the shore, so do our emotions. And it's our responsibility to be accepting of them, not judgmental of them, not putting them down, ridiculing them, saying how they should be for ourselves or anybody else. And then this turns us to the acceptance of others' emotions. That doesn't mean we have to like or approve or even support the way they may act them out. But they have a right to our witnessing and our companionship as they feel what they feel, and offer our respect and our care, and even our parameters of maybe better ways to express those feelings or handle them. So a very good coping skill to practice is that of acceptance. The next general category of coping skills are affiliation and the communication that comes with it. Our fundamental drive is not only, as Freud says, for pleasure or displeasure. It is for, as John Bowlby said, belonging and proximity seeking. From the moment we're born, we are trying to belong. We're aware, as Daniel Stern said, of our separation, and we are looking for reunion. We are looking for joining. And we use proximity seeking for comfort, for safety, for protection, and for love. Everyone right now who is going through this crisis is experiencing isolation, even if they're with their families at home. We are isolated from variety. We are isolated from many people we care about. We are isolated from the ways we did our jobs. We're isolated from interacting, even a hello at the grocery store probably, or going to a park or a beach or a theme park. And so in dealing with that isolation, one of our coping skills needs to be to build bridges in our affiliations for communication. Texting, voicemail, email, FaceTime, Zoom, writing letters. Letter writing is now a rediscovered art form. We can mail them to someone who doesn't have electronics. We can mail a card. We can mail a package. We can mail something. We can send them something from Amazon or Instacart to brighten up their day and let them know we care and that we're here. And open communication, including some allowance for complaining, because we need to accept the relief valve of complaining, not constantly and not thoroughly, but, oh my gosh, another day of this? Yes, another day of this. Complaining followed by acceptance. But the venting or expression of our feelings and having listening ears who are happy to listen and knowing we'll be listened to as well. This pandemic is bringing up an early time in my very early life with the polio epidemic that was terrifying then, where I was quarantined for weeks and my brother nearly died of 3 types of polio. And it was a devastating time in my very young childhood, which truly ended with his illness. So there are So many ways to affiliate and communicate and deal with all that comes up in our experiences emotionally. The third area of coping skills are decision making. Your styles, your preferences, your sensibilities need to be taken into account, as do those of others, especially those you are living with or those you are close to. Not everybody does things the same way. Not everybody does things at the same speed. Some people are rejuvenated by interaction. Others refuel by some solitude or quietness. Others love noise and busyness. It's all okay. We just have to make room for how to have those. Our decision making is an entire process which I'm going to address in a separate video, but for today, let me say this. For the moment, unless you are a person who is known to be self-centered, I want you to start by blocking out anybody else and think about what you need and the way you need it, and what you want and the way you want it. Once you are clear about that, then take the significant others who are part of that decision into account and know what they need and want and how they need or want it. And then work out the compromises that will serve both of you as best as possible. If you are more narcissistic or more self-centered or always consider yourself first, then I want you to kind of temporarily block yourself out. And I want you to try to start with other people and their styles and sensibilities and preferences. And be aware of those first. And then turn to yours. And then find a compromise that can serve both. The fourth category of coping skills is contributing. Now, you may be contributing already to those who are around you. You may be a part of the medical world and contributing there. You may be a teacher and teaching online. You may be teaching your little 5-year-old how to stir a dish that you're going to make together. You may be going to the grocery store for someone who really shouldn't go. You may be contributing in all kinds of ways. Contributing builds affiliation, and it builds communication. So that coping skill is going to feed into your other coping skills. There are all kinds of ways to contribute, and you will feel bigger and better by doing so. And the fifth category we're going to talk about today is being creative. I have a whole playlist on creativity that keeps growing. For now, I want to talk about being creative with yourself. Do things a different way than you usually do them. If you do something one way and have for the last 30 years, do it another way. My grandfather had the same breakfast: a burnt English muffin, a peach or a pear, depending on the season, and a shredded wheat biscuit for breakfast with a little bit of cream and a black steaming cup of coffee. He had that for breakfast every single year of his adult life, which covered about 60-some years. Now, that doesn't mean you can't have your favorite meal, but shake it up a little bit. Have some cornflakes or noisy Rice Krispies or something else, cinnamon toast. I love cinnamon toast. Try to find creative ways of reorganizing your house. I want to recommend the Call Clutter Fairy videos with Noreen Burke. They're just outstanding. She has 50,000 followers. She's a good friend of mine and has helped me over the last 2 years reorganize my space after my husband died and we had to dismantle the hospital aspect of my home. and she's helped me at my office. She's a wonderful human being, and her videos are so helpful. You can reorganize your space. My youngest daughter just redid her closet and can see the floor. So you can reorganize, you can pare down, you can donate. You can start journaling. If you haven't ever journaled, or you have and you'd like to be writing more, I have my flow deck cards, flow writing cards for sale on my website. Those are great prompts. You can write every single day. You can start writing letters. You could start writing the story of your life. You could start or join some online groups. I have friends who are playing mahjong online, who playing cards online, using Zoom to share dinners or movies or whatever. If you can sew, start making masks and other protective gear. So make your own garden and donate the extra food. This is a time to plant, and nurseries will deliver or let you pick up, and you can plant tomatoes and lettuces and vegetables and herbs and fruits, and not only feed yourself healthy food, but contribute to the well-being of others. There are so many ways to be creative. There is creativity that is just for your own edification, your own growth. There's shared creativity with other people, and there's creativity that can benefit others. So these are the 5 areas of coping skills to start practicing actively, consciously, and purposefully. Out of them will come some wonderful, new, healthy defenses so that you don't have to isolate. You don't have to live in denial. You don't have to rebel. You don't have to split off. Out of this horrible experience, we may really rediscover what the pioneers knew, which is fellowship and community and partnering and raising the barn together. I hope these are helpful. I wish each and every one of you health and well-being, and if you don't have health, recovery and peace, and acceptance that these difficult circumstances, even though we can't see the end yet, it will come. And in the meantime, we may have reinvented a great deal of our lives, much for the better. Take good care. I'll see you soon. And thank you for watching.